What's up, you guys? Welcome to this episode of Crystal Clear. I am excited to be back in the studio today, solo. I feel like there's always a different vibration when I'm here by myself. So it's nice. I took a couple months off from filming, front loaded my podcast, but there's been a hell of a lot of life going on in that couple months. So we're actually leaving tonight, in a couple hours for a trip. Just my husband and I, which I think is long overdue, much needed. But I wanted to jump on to just kind of dump out some of summer so I can leave it behind. And because we've been processing through a lot, I feel like there's been a lot of life happening. There's been a lot of transitions and just things festering up that have given me the opportunity to grow and evolve and like sit with it for a while and really kind of explore where the mirrors are. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this, and I know that some are because I have friends that are kind of going through similar, not quite as parallel experiences, but just a lot surfacing, which I think is on par of just like we're in the second part of a 9-year in numerology. And it's like all about endings, and next year is all about new beginnings and fresh starts and fresh perspectives. And I think that's, it's bittersweet for us. And honestly, it's been a roller coaster. It's been a roller coaster of growth, evolution, like icky shit too. Like there's been some yuck that's come up, and a big part of that in my personal life and for my family has been grief. We lost our dog unexpectedly in June. She was only 7 years old. So, which is really interesting because intuitively at the beginning of the year, and I even expressed this to my husband, I was like, I don't feel like she has long. I just had like something in the pit of me that was like, spend more time with her, like pour more love into her. Because, when you have a family pet, especially of 7 years and you have such a busy life, you can take them for granted for just being there. Right. And that doesn't hit you until they're gone. And, I was out of town and my husband was home at work, and our oldest was home with her. They'd let her out in that morning and let her out again around noon. And when Drew went downstairs at 3:30, she was cold and non-responsive and lying on the ground with like little foam around her nostrils and some weird liquid coming out of her mouth. And we still don't really know what happened to her because they wouldn't take her to, again, I wasn't there. She wasn't taken to DR to do like autopsy, figure it out. I just, I don't think they had the capacity to do that. But when Matt got home, he said I made him FaceTime her. Like I had to kind of see it for myself, and it was really hard. And it was really interesting because obviously I was in shock. I was upset. You go through my initial, an observation for myself is my initial feeling with grief is anger. So I think I immediately kind of just like what, why? Like, not like angry at anyone, just like upset, like for not being there. And of course I went through like, if I was home, this wouldn't have happened. It's just all the unfair things we do to ourselves when something's out of our control like that. I was in Cayman Islands with our two youngest, and it was devastating. And my daughter overheard the conversation. I wasn't even really able to tell her in the way that there was intentionality behind it. And when you get a dog when you're 7 years old and they're half your life, we've never really known our house without her. It's really hard. And I think the first time our kid, like had to experience witnessing our kids suffer true grief for the first time. Like my daughter has lost a couple grandparents, but it hits different when it's something living in your home. It's, it's like it was our Matt and I's first baby together, right? It was hard. It's still hard. But witnessing my kids experience grief for the first time and feeling that helplessness of like, I can't help them. I can't fix them. I can't do anything to make it better. I just, it's right now, I need to sit with them. I need to sit with them. I need to love them through this and also allow myself time and space to grieve as well. And I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't really do that. The first day initially, obviously, was very upset, more upset to see Tatum upset. We were out of town. We chose not to tell our youngest son, who's 5, until we got home, because I don't think we had one more day left on our trip and I didn't want to rob him of that. And I don't really think he would have quite understood either way. So, allowed space and time for grief. We had a really low key day, talked it over with my husband, and it was weird. It actually brought up a lot of parallel feelings for me, because when my Nana, my grandmother who raised me, when she passed away 13 years ago, I was also out of town and I didn't get to do like a proper goodbye, and it was sudden, and it was very parallel. And for me, what resonated in all of that, and I've done a lot of processing since, in different ways, and realizing it was me losing a physical manifestation of protection and safety. My dog, Nilla, was my absolute unconditional love, support, and protection. Even more so than my husband sometimes. She was with me and protected me and gave me emotional support through really hard times and trying times in our life and relationship and marriage. And she could feel me, and she didn't, she followed me in every room. And I feel like she was one of my little soulmates. I was scrolling Instagram 7.5 years ago, and there she was just looking, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I know we just moved into our new house, but can I wire this bully breed dealer in Alabama money? And Matt's like, are you crazy? And I'm like, no, I need her. She's perfect. And so a month after we moved into our new house, we purchased her, and it was one of the best things we could have done for our family. And so losing that was really hard, and I've been able to sit with it and realize and come to, shifting it more to I'm really glad we didn't have to watch her suffer, in a sense, and make the decision ourselves to put her down, because it's honestly something I've never had to do for an animal. And I don't even know if I could make the decision. It's got to be really, really hard. Shifting. I feel like I've been in a space where I'm like, okay, universe, whatever. I'd really love a little bit of less responsibility. That's really not what I was freaking asking for, though. So coming to a place where I'm okay with being okay with her not there. We've had a lot of travel and a lot of busy stuff coming up, and it's one less thing we have to coordinate and organize and, provide care for. And as hard as it's been, there is that element of a little less responsibility around the house, even though it's, I feel like I would have rather quit my job than that happen. That's for sure. And really just coming to acceptance with it. But I have gone through some avoidance as well. Like some things were intentional. Like we got back from Cayman, the next weekend I had a trip with my husband. And then the next week I had a trip with the kid. I mean, it's literally, I've been traveling every week since May. with like little to no downtime. Until a couple weeks ago, I had bone graft surgery. So I had to get like part of my jaw from the inside cut. They shaved my bone, placed the bone shavings up here, stitched it all back up. I mean, it was actually pretty horrendous. They kind of sugarcoated it. If it was, yeah, I'm glad to be on the other side of it now. However, that was the first time I had actually been still enough to process it, because prior to that, in between trips and travel and camps and responsibility, I found myself going back to old patterns of, 2 classes a day, or always needing to move my body, which I know for me means I have like pent up energy and I need to get it out, which is healthy. However, I found myself, I forced myself into stillness at times. I tried to get some good meditation in, really getting outside and doing some grounding. But I really felt like I felt the energy in my body that it needed to release, like whether, so I'd be on a walk and all of a sudden just tears start flowing. Like, so I tried to make myself like cycle, like I'd get in a cycle class and the momentum of class, and I love it. And it like brings something in my soul alive. The soul that I am brings me alive, right? Like, I don't know. There's something about it that just feels so good to me, but it would just like pour out the tears, and I allowed that to happen. And to be honest, it made me realize that I hadn't fully processed my Nana's death from 13 years ago. And I think because there were so many parallels, I was able to pull some of that up and pull it out and gain another layer of acceptance and clarity. And, even though she's not here in the physical body, I know very much that she's guiding and protecting. And, I think sometimes we don't understand it in the moment, but it's those situations that make us a bit stronger. And, everyone has a different perspective of this, but I really like to think that my guides and angels and all the things are guiding me and protecting me along the way. And you can have all the acceptance in the world. However, nothing will ever replace that connection. And I think that that's where the real grief comes in. When you lose someone, or a pet or a family member or a friend or someone that's close to your heart, you can accept it and you can move on. But I don't think anything will ever fill that connection. I don't think it's meant to. I think what's meant to be there are the memories and the love that they poured into you. And just instead of allowing that to become a gaping hole of grief, fill it with love and happy thoughts and gratitude for the times you had and the things you got to experience together, and, how it shaped you and how it molded you. And that's really kind of how that's taken a turn for me, after the processing and moving through it, which moving through pain and grief is just the way my body likes to move. Like when my nan passed away, I was teaching 20 classes a week, literally 20 group exercise classes a week. I was taking every class. I was like performing the class with the participants. So plenty of movement there. And I think I probably got up to about half that now. But it also helped me to like do more of like the cycle and the Pilates and the walking and just things that I was kind of mindless with, that I didn't have to think a lot of my own on, which I really liked and which was really helpful. But when I had this surgery a couple weeks ago, I had to be still. My husband was out of town. My daughter was out of town. She was at a lacrosse camp. He was in Vegas playing in the World Series of Poker. He did really well, by the way. He got in like top 9%. So that's always kind of fun. Fulfilling his dream is a bucket list thing for him. And I love that for him. So I go and schedule this bone graft surgery when he's away. It actually worked out great. It was just me. Had my home helper helping with all the things and my little guy. And, but I had a lot of days at home to be still. And also realizing that when I'm in physical pain, my body also wants to move. So being up and organizing drawers and closets and color coordinating closets and just cleaning things out. Like, yes, it's productive energy, but at times I would force myself to just sit with it and be like, okay, you need to feel this. Like, it's important. It's part of the process. And realizing how much physical pain makes me feel vulnerable, and knowing that that is definitely an area that I am still healing and still working through, because there is something about being that type of vulnerable that I don't know if it's mind over matter, like in my body just has a very hard time accepting. So I don't know if it's conditioned. I don't know if it's from lifetimes of pushing through, but it was really intense. Um, but then after a couple days, I really got to the point where I was kind of excited for the alone time. I was nurturing myself. I actually felt really good. Like this soft food diet, I was eating like Greek yogurt, and I'd put some like, first of all, one of my new favorite snacks is the ratio of vanilla Greek yogurt. It's like protein yogurt, and putting a scoop of coffee protein powder in it. It's so good. Yeah, like soft diet and sweet potatoes with some Greek yogurt at dinner. Thank goodness my body can handle dairy. Otherwise, I would just be carving it out. But no meat, no fish, nothing for like 2 weeks. I actually felt really good. I felt super lean. I didn't feel inflamed. I felt like my body needed the rest because I had been working it so much and so hard after the loss of Nilla that it really just appreciated the downtime. And mentally too. Like, I'm not really one to watch TV. And I like went through seasons of Nine Perfect Strangers, which is amazing, by the way. Sirens, amazing. And I mean, a few other shows. Like, I asked my girlfriends, like, what show should I be watching? And Daisy and the Six, so good. We're going to Stevie Nicks in August, and I like totally felt the vibes of that. But it was interesting. It took me a few days, but I allowed myself to be there and be in that vulnerable space and feel the pain, not only the physical pain, but I allowed myself to feel the grief and go outside where Nilla is buried in our yard. We have 10 acres, and she's out by a tree. And I allowed myself to, I mean, the sunsets in Sarasota right now are just amazing. So I eased my way out. I avoided it for a lot of reasons because it just feels real when I go out there. And I swear I still like, I hear her like little nails scratching the floor sometimes when I'm walking around, or I still kind of expect for her to be there. And at night after I put Birdie to bed, I still almost make that corner to go say goodnight to her. And so it's definitely still very fresh and very raw. It's only been a couple months. Yeah, it's been very difficult, but it's been great to have so many observations and opportunities to observe unhealed layers of myself. You know, until something like this happens, you're not necessarily peeling back the grief layers. It's hard to until you experience it firsthand. And interestingly enough, I've read a bunch of books this year that there was a theme around grief. And I actually reached out to a friend of mine who lost her daughter, Beth Nopick, and she wrote this beautiful book. And I would love to have her on sometime. But, you know, I reached out to her before any of this happened. And I'm like, I just feel like grief is a theme. I've been reading these books and it turns into like grief and, you know, how people process it or don't process it. And her books was one of those. Lisa Marie Presley's book was another that was co-written by her daughter. And then Prince Harry's book, Spare, which is so good. And just talking about like I don't know, I was just really, it was a theme. And I guess this is why I was thinking to myself, it was preparing us for, you know, something happening to my in-laws or my grandfather who are in their 80s now. But I think it was really preparing me for this. And not, I don't even know if you could call it preparing, because I don't really think you're ever prepared for it. Um, but yeah, so wrapping up the little segment on that, I just felt like I needed to get on here not only to share my experience and how hard it is, but also to just complete the processing. I think that the one thing that I know the podcast has done for me is allowed me to verbally process. And what that happens is like when something happens to you, you journal, you could do talk therapy. The more you talk about something, the more you create a narrative form around it, and you can release it from those areas of your brain that it stays stuck in that amygdala, like the fight, flight, freeze, the grief, the deep areas. The more you can talk about it and express yourself, the more it comes out. And I'm like, I'm not the person that's going to be like, hey, guess what? My dog died. Blah, blah, blah. This is how I've been a little set back. I'm not going to say reclusive because that's not the word, but just kind of wanting to be in my own space and my own element. A lot of family stuff and kiddo stuff this summer. Like I said, I'm excited to take a trip with my husband. I think it's long overdue. It's been a whirlwind for him as well. We've had some other family stuff going on. We have a son that moved away to college, a week and a half after we found our dog. So we had some concern there with coping, and he says he's okay, and says that he'd rather it had happened and got to say his goodbyes while he was still home rather than away. But that's really hard. And just to segue into something else that I feel like has been kind of a theme this summer for me is transparency. So I am a product of a crazy childhood, for lack of a better word. And I think we can all relate to this in some way, shape, or form, like people not telling us the whole truth. And for me, that's something that I'm like, no, because as you all know, I'm probably an overshare when it comes to most things. But the biggest thing, like for me, for my integrity, for my character, is to tell the whole truth. And it doesn't even have to be to everyone else, it's to myself. So, I remember being younger and, my grandmother saying my uncle was away at work camp. He wasn't away at work camp. He was in prison. My father's car accident, like people not telling me the whole truth about that, which, it's not appropriate at a certain age. But there came a time where it was. And when I ask questions, I want honest answers. And I think that sometimes people have a tendency to tell themselves these stories over in their mind so much they believe their own stories. My mom is someone that did that my entire life. And so for me, honesty is very important. And I feel like there's been a theme that's come up with people in my life that, they haven't either fully disclosed all the information about like planning or events or, like situations with my children, and seeing the lack of transparency with them. And that's a trigger for me because it's like, no, they deserve the whole truth. And we all do, right? And so I think the first place my mind and intuition leads me when the lack of transparency is there is like, my mind, those PTSD patterns I used to have, they're, as much as you heal and unravel, I mean, that's hard wiring for survival over 40 years now. So immediately I go to, what are they hiding? What is their motive? And why aren't they telling me? And then my intuition kicks in and is like, it's their own shit. It's their own shame or guilt or whatever they're feeling behind it. Or C, maybe they don't feel safe. Maybe I haven't been a safe person for them in the past, because of, my own ways of not understanding or coping or judging them because of their choices. Again, I've talked about it quite a bit, like those rigid boundaries I had. Like I even really was very conflicted after surgery they told me to rotate Advil and Tylenol, and they gave me Vicodin. And they gave me 15 of them they said, the first 2 or 3 weeks after surgery is going to be quite painful. You take them when you need them. And I really mentally, morally struggled with that. And it was very interesting. Like I had quite a bit of resistance with it. And I talked to my life coach quite a bit, talked to my husband a lot about it. And I think it comes from, I know part of it comes from, as a child, someone like, I'm not a safe person. Like that person's not safe because they're doing that, whether it was drugs or alcohol or pills or whatever. So for me, it was like, oh my gosh, if I take this, I'm not going to be a safe person for my kids, which is crazy because it's, like you take one, you take I didn't even take the recommended dose. I would take like one a day and then rotate the Advil Tylenol, which I don't even take Advil and Tylenol. But for this procedure I had, it was necessary. So I really morally struggled with that, and I probably overshared all the time, and I talked about it a lot. And Matt's like, you're the only person judging you. Like, you just had surgery. The doctor prescribed it. Just take it if you need it. But I really had to work through that. And I think it's because I've been around such a lot of substance abuse in my life. B, I set so many rigid boundaries on myself as a child and a teenager. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I was no saint. I tried plenty of things throughout my life. But there was never a time, unless I was completely sober and healthy, that I didn't hold shame or guilt for trying something. And that's not healthy either. And now my perspective on all of this is like, if you're going to do something, just do it. You don't have to feel shame and guilt. If there's shame and guilt tied to it, then don't do it. Listen to your inner self, your inner, whether it's having a drink or whatever. Like, these are things I choose not to do right now because I know that they just don't really serve me as a person and my purpose and my mission and my passion right now. But if I feel like I'm gonna have a cocktail, I'm gonna have one and not feel guilty about it. So I had to really work through and dig deep on being able to take this medication when I needed it because I was in severe pain. I mean, this surgery was no joke, and being okay with it. So that was another big kind of observation I went through. And so I encourage you, like, if you feel you have some resistance in your life somewhere, like whether it's to a person, whether it's to a place, whether it's to something, an activity, a smell, smells are really big for me. Really try to go inward and peel apart the layers. Like, okay, where was I when the smell triggered me the first time? And where have I smelled it in my life? It's a really big one for me. Like, the smell of marijuana for me is a trigger because of my stepdad, my first stepdad. There's been like 9. That's a trigger for me because he would like smoke pot in the car on the way to take us to school. It's like, then you get out and you're embarrassed and you hold the shame because it's not like nothing you can do. And so the smell of that is one that gets me, or like that, like stale beer, alcohol on the breath smell, like grosses me out. The sweaty smell of like people sweating out alcohol grosses me out because it's like were common smells in my childhood. So in adulthood, like I can't handle it, which is really interesting. And now I don't have to because, yeah. So really interesting. And back to the transparency and the half truth trigger. So I've really been pondering this and going back to it all. And I think it really definitely stems from being a child and people feeling like they're protecting me by not telling me the whole truth, but they're really not, because I already know. I feel like in my marriage, when we stopped being completely open and honest with each other about everything for a smidge, that's when chaos started. And because you can feel it, you can feel when your person is not being your person. And, that transparency, it has to be 100% for me. Like, you need to own your stuff, and I promise to own my stuff. And, yeah, it's just really interesting to me, even with having teenagers. I think that my daughter and I have a really open relationship, and I'm very grateful for that. So we have that transparency. So I think if for some reason I ever feel it slipping, which I'm sure it will at some point in time, I hope not, but teenagers is inevitable. Like I feel like you can always tell. You can always feel it. I feel like whether you know for a fact or not, you can usually feel it. And I think this really goes back to times in my life, because I think that anything that triggers us is kind of somewhat of a mirror in an area that we need to heal. I think this goes back to times in my life where I wasn't transparent with myself, flat out. Like I wasn't being honest with myself about how much pain I was in, or maybe previous relationships. Like I wasn't honest with myself when I wasn't being fulfilled or heard or seen. I was continuing to give and give and give in situations where I wasn't receiving, or I felt like I was receiving from relationships that I wasn't willing to give. Or, even when it comes to, I used to be the epitome of an over exerciser, like exercising all the time. Like I wasn't admitting to myself when I was tired and I was exhausted and I didn't want to push forward, but I did it anyway. But it wasn't from a place of transparency and health. It was from now realizing, and all this stuff that's bubbled up has made me realize I was doing that from a place of pain. Like there were things inside me that were painful that I had not faced, that maybe I didn't have the tools at the time. I didn't have the courage at the time. I didn't have the support at the time. And until I started allowing myself to peel back the layers and, chip down the walls and started being completely brutally honest and vulnerable and exposing my shit, especially to you guys, has been so healing. I wasn't able to understand how important transparency was to me. I mean, we all know, we've all told a little white lie or a half truth, and it's like that shit adds up. It really does. And what it does is it causes you not to trust yourself. So facing all of that, and whether it's a journal, I mean, it might not be appropriate to reach out to someone when you were 15 and apologize to them or whatever. But what's helped me is unraveling a lot of it in my journal and being able to face some of the things and some of the hard truths. Those of you who are close to me know I am like the queen of hard truthing. I'm not going to sugarcoat and tell you what you want to hear. I don't do that to myself. And that's the biggest reason. Like I really like to be honest with myself. And recently I've had a lot of opportunities to do that. So I think that that's why this transparency thing is coming up. And it's been some people that are pretty close to me. And I think it was, part of the grief, part of the over moving my body, and a lot of the themes that were resurfacing over a 13-year time span really allowed me to dig it up and process it and work through it. And to tail in from this, like some things I've done in the meantime, because I just really needed to shift gears. I really needed to start being more intentional about my nervous system. I was dysregulated, completely dysregulated. Not only did I have grief going on, I also had physical pain, which just regulates your nervous system. We're traveling a lot, so the instability of that. So finding time to go outside and breathe. Like we went to a convention center. My husband had an event, and like I had to go outside and walk laps around the parking lot in the building. Like I needed to get sunshine and fresh air and be outside in my own energy field to like pull in all the goodness of the sunshine and the trees and the breeze and listening to the birds. And I just treated myself to a retreat actually with some really beautiful ladies. This lady named Jessica Brace did the most intense, impactful breathwork session. She does 9D breathwork. Her name is Jessica Brace. She has some stuff on YouTube. I literally want to go. She's a ladies conference actually coming up, I think in August, but I want to go get certified in this. It was one of the most impactful, intense experiences I've experienced in my healing journey. Just total reset. It was amazing. I really did a lot of decluttering and just getting rid of old stuff when I was home, recovering from surgery and just cleaning out stuff that needed to be cleaned out, like organizing drawers. Like for me, that there is something to, and energetically, there is something to, because if you have a lot of clutter and chaos going on in your home, it's a reflection of what could be going on inside of you. So everything has a place, making sure things, when you take them out, we put them back. Like we don't leave the bag sitting on the chair for 3 days just because it landed there on Friday. We unpack it. Like I went through all of my bags and all of everything and just took everything out and just like eliminated a lot of baggage. And it felt really good to do that. And I feel like with getting rid of old baggage, it just makes you feel so much lighter. So I think going into kind of this new half of the year, the second half of the year is really, we're going into the end of our 9-year. Next year is all about new beginnings and just starting fresh. And I want to be very intentional about that. I want to continue to work through and let go of anything old and heavy that's weighing me down. Even things like, shoes that are clunky and heavy. It's like, why am I wearing that? Like everyone's on this weighted vest trend. And I'm like, why? Like, why are we weighing ourselves down as we're walking? For me, walking is such a free, like I want to feel light and free. And more praise to you, vesters. I am not one of those girls. I do not like to be weighed down by anything. I feel like I've worked so hard to release stuff. And it's like energetically, why are we weighing ourselves down? Because I feel like my goal has been just releasing all the things so I can feel lighter. So that's been really interesting. And just allowing myself to have more downtime. Like I said, just a little less responsibility right now. We have a few more weeks until the kids go back to school. And just being very intentional with that time. It's a new season. We only have 3 kids in our house. We used to have 4, one's at college. Just being mindful of time and energy and my community outreach life and career. Events are a big deal. So a ton of events in the fall and the spring, but I can do that differently. Like maybe this year we can help and we can support, but I don't necessarily have to be there in the physical to show up. Like I can show up in other ways. And I think it's really important for me to be transparent with myself that is what I need in this season. Like I love, it was yesterday actually, with all this going on, I've really had to be intentional about my gratitude practices in my mind. Because when you have a bunch of things, different things happening back to back to back, it can be very easy to get into those, oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened. Like I literally got a parking ticket on the way here. I was 3 minutes over, or like before I came to film my podcast. And it's like, you know what, whatever. Instead of having the, oh my God, this on top of everything else, like it's not about the glass half empty. It's about, you know what, I'm just grateful that it wasn't anything bigger than that. Right. So yesterday I went on a gratitude walk. I went for 4.5 miles. And the entire time I was literally out loud talking about the things I'm grateful for, what I love about the people that I love, like what I enjoy most about my life. We did an exercise. It was the Ikigai chart with Bree Swayze, I believe is her name. Which was really great at this retreat I went to on Sunday. And we had to list like what we love, what we're good at, what we could get paid for, and what people think that we're great at or what we get complimented for. And it was a really amazing exercise to do because it was something that I think that I really needed, but B, it really reeled me in on, I am absolutely in alignment with all the things that I love, all the passions, the missions and the purpose, whether it's community outreach and providing resources or podcasting and sharing my truths, my vulnerability and providing resources. And retreats. Like I'm hosting my first crystal clear retreat away in Sedona this October. And it's like, you're just holding space for people to get to the next level for them and whatever that means for them. And I realize I'm doing that in so many different avenues of my life. And it's a beautiful life. I mean, it really is. And I'm not saying it in a boastful or a bragging way. There's always room for improvement. But I think doing this exercise was so important because it really allowed me to intercept any of that like low vibration energy and just circle back to the gratitude. Like, listen, Chris, like you're on your way. You are doing it. You have everything's in alignment. You just need to keep navigating through. I think sometimes we can get so caught up in the what's next and I have to do something more and something bigger and do this. And I have friends calling about all these different ideas. And I'm like, I think I'm good. Like, I think I want to marinate here for a little while and allow myself to enjoy this chapter. It's a beautiful chapter. It can change at any moment. I mean, my little guy lost 2 teeth already this summer. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, time is flying. My daughter has her first like real relationship, and it's the most beautiful experience and it's so healthy. And I'm just, reflecting on, wow, you've broken a lot of those cycles. Like, she is so secure with herself. She had a opportunity to go spend some time with family and realizing the dynamics are different than they are at home. And that's okay. But she's able to see different dynamics and understand that, where growth is needed or healing is needed in other areas, and to protect her own energy when she is in those situations. And I'm just so grateful for that. And it's like, this is all paying off. Like it has the trickle effect, like seeing my friends really doing great things with their life and not personalizing their spouse's things anymore, and, making healthier choices. And we're all just kind of evolving and growing in different ways. And it's just really beautiful to see. And it just makes me super grateful. And I just hope all of you appreciate this as much as I do. Like, it's really a gift and an honor to be able to share my life with you. And I do it because, we all have our shit. B, it's so healthy for me to be able to share and have that level of vulnerability and let you all know that, like, I see you, I feel you, I hear you. You're not alone. Knowing there's so many resources out there. And just, I did a resilient retreat. I facilitated a program. I do a journaling program there every month. And our theme was, letting go of things that no longer serve us and creating space for new. So I feel like that is definitely my theme for the rest of this year, especially being a 9-year, letting go of what no longer serves you. Like, what patterns, what behaviors, what people, what objects, what places, like, what is it in your life that's weighing you down, that's pulling you down, that's not serving you well? Like, give yourself permission to let it go. And it might be hard. It might be very hard. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can peel it back. You can do it piece by piece. But also, once you let it go, giving yourself permission and inviting yourself to open up to receive. Because once we release something heavy, we don't have to fill the space, but we can be open to receive the love and the worthiness and the kindness and the experiences that we deserve. And I am going to leave you guys with that today. It's always an honor to talk to you guys. And I just wanted to kind of do my summer dump, for lack of a better word, and, share some experiences, because it got pretty heavy for a little while. And I feel like I'm on the other side of it and it feels good. And, always here. If you guys need to reach out, process anything, go to my crystalclear.com website, reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, all the things. Like, always here to process. Looking forward to some really great collaborations and future retreats too, coming up in the fall. Like, a girlfriend of mine, Tammy Valencenti, who was on my podcast. I think we might get something in the works for a fun Florida retreat. And really just looking forward to this new space of honoring moving forward, honoring pulling back, and enjoying the flow. Have a great day.